Welcome to the first ever Not Just the Water Boys podcast. In order to be successful like any other ESPN or sports talk show, we will start off by talking about Zion Williamson. First of all, before this, I would just like to condemn Nike for putting an awful effort into your shoe and putting this man's career at risk. I would expect this out of Puma or Reebok or like something like that. But Nike, really? You guys are doing this? But anyways, that was just back to Zion. So we all know the story. Wednesday night, less than a minute into the most hyped up regular season college game that's going to be the most hyped for a while, Zion Williamson blows out his shoe, Nike shoe, and sprains his knee. And the Zion effect is real, people, because right after this injury, many NBA All-Stars like Trae Young, DeMarcus Cousins, and Isaiah Thomas advised Zion on Twitter that he shouldn't play for the rest of his college career and just wait for the NBA so he can prevent further risks, since college is just shenanigans and the NBA is where it really matters and you get paid. Also, immediately after this happened, in over a night, the NBA tried to move their minimum age of a player from 19 to 18. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking about, Luka Doncic and how he's an 18-year-old in the league right now. But Doncic is just a huge loophole. He came from Europe. He played there as like a 17-year-old, was the MVP. 16-year-old too, yeah. And then, so do you guys think that Zion should listen to these NBA Titans and sit out on the rest of his college career? Or do you guys think the minimum age should be lowered?
I have to disagree with DeMarcus Cousins. I really feel like he has to bounce back from his injury as soon as he can and prove to these teams that he deserves to be selected number one overall. Because every pick that he drops, he loses out on a potential $4 million for every pick. So I feel he just has to bounce back as soon as possible.
Honestly, I think Zion, he wants to come back and play, and I think that if he wants to, he should. Like, it's not that serious of an injury to the point where him coming back could do further damage and that he should wait it out. He wants to play, he should play, and even if he doesn't play, there's no real repercussion for him. So yeah, he won't. Right now, he's on track to be the first overall pick, right? If he got injured, if he sits out and doesn't come back, then I think it was Stephen A. Smith who also said that. Then what? He'll go down to 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? It really won't matter in the larger scheme of things. It's just, does he want to play? And if he does, let him. Because there's no real, of course there's the risk of injury, but that's just basketball in general. So I actually think I agree with DeMarcus Cousins. I don't think Zion should play again, because you have to take it on the severity of the injury, right? Zion is already sitting out on another game tonight. And, he should not rush into this at all. I know Zion, just thinking about Zion, the competitive nature he has, he wants to get back on the court. He wants to play for Duke, and he wants to win. So he probably will end up doing it. I don't think he should. Just save it for the league. He'll make money. And, hey, if he loses that much money, he could just pose a product liability case for Nike. Because, I don't just hate Nike. But if it costs him that much money, he should do something with that. And I think you just hate Nike. No, I'm going to be honest here. Him sitting out, that doesn't really do much. See, all these other college athletes, they look up to, everyone looks up to Zion from college and below, high school basketball. Even NBA players think he's a great thing, right? So if he sits out, just don't think about his career. Think about all the other careers and how many people will go oh man, college basketball just get me banged up. Let me just go to the JBA instead, you know? Okay. You gotta focus. The JBA cannot relate to this. What is that? Just a bunch of teenagers weren't good enough to make D3, go to LeVar Ball, get paid $30,000 a year. You can't possibly correlate the Junior Basketball Association to D1 college basketball, where a guy could legitimately be the next LeBron James or Michael Jordan. No, I'm saying, though, if this isn't LiAngelo Ball's playground, this is the real deal. Also, where is LiAngelo Ball right now? What is happening? That's a topic for another day. I mean, I thought we were supposed to talk about professionals, and LiAngelo Ball is far from being that. Anyway, back to Zion, which is what we were supposed to talk about. I honestly think that if he wants to come back and he can come back, then he should as soon as possible, because all he's missing out in is just friendly competition. It's college. It is shenanigans. It doesn't matter that much. It's the last couple of games where, of course, he'll have pressure, but there's not as much as he will have in the NBA, and you'll just get to have fun. It'll be less of a job.
Alright, we could talk about Zion all day, but I think we should shift our focus over the NBA's reaction. Personally, I think lowering the age down to 18 not only is a great business decision by the NBA, but it also is great for the game of basketball. College could be used as a proving ground for athletes out of high school that don't have the talent required by the NBA to play, but it also lets them develop their skills in a competitive setting that is better than high school, but not as quite as competitive as the NBA. And also it allows once-in-a-generation talents like Zion, LeBron, or Kobe to actually just transfer to the NBA immediately out of high school without wasting a year of their life in college.
You know, I 100% agree with what you just said. That first, the NBA age limit should be moved down from 19 to 18 for the one-of-a-kind athletes who have truly shown that they are already capable of great NBA feats, like Zion Williamson, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, LeBron James. Like, they all already had NBA talent. They don't need to waste a year in college just to risk injury, right? And the other part of what you said, I also agree with, how this gives other players more of an opportunity in a more competitive environment to showcase what they have and to show NBA scouts and other people out there like, hey, I have what it has too. Don't just focus on the guy who we already know is going to make it. So, I hate to be that guy who disagrees with everything, but I don't think it should be lowered back down. I think one and done is a great way. 2005, when it was up to 19 in the first place, there's a reason behind that, right? College coaches weren't happy, NBA teams weren't happy, because the high school competition is completely different than college. In college, not only do you get a chance to prove yourself against higher competition, you also get a year to get stronger, faster, get more disciplined, and just smarter, basically. Because basketball isn't strictly about skill, right? You named like Michael or Kobe Bryant and people like that who were straight out of high school, but those are once in a blue moon type of guys.
Well,
like you don't get
once in a generation. Because those are the type of talents that don't need to go to college. They've already proved their ability. They don't need to waste a year in college. I'm not saying for
exactly,
Joe,
but you can't base the whole like process off of those few guys. Because Kobe Bryant, yeah, he didn't need college, but not everyone going into the draft is a Kobe Bryant, you know.
Yeah, we're not saying every single high school player is immediately going to get drafted. We're saying the few that actually have what it takes immediately from high school are going to actually get drafted, because that's what college is for still. People that don't get drafted can still prove themselves to NBA coaches.
Like, this may not even be a draft coming out of high school, maybe less than that. You know, it's just the guys who are the generational talents. They already have this ability. It's not just Joe Buckley making it to the big league, you know? It's the guys who have showed that they could be a dominant force off the bat and they don't need college. Yeah, that's true, but you're basing those guys' performance off of worse people, and you're comparing them in a draft off of college players who played better people. Because in high school, there's the top of the top. In college, there's the top of the top. But the top of the top from college should get priority over the high school kids because they're better in a better league.
But that's just the risk the teams have to take if they want to shot at one of those talents.
And I agree, but that's the risk that the teams weren't happy with taking and why it was changed in 2005 to 19 years old.
But no one's forcing them to draft these players.
Yeah, the thing is, they don't have to be the first pick, you know? Like, Kobe Bryant was, I think, pick number 13, right? So the really good college players, the college players that people believe are better than the once-in-a-generation talent, they'll be drafted before. But the other guys still deserve the opportunity to be drafted if they've already showed they have what it takes.
So this finally gives meaning to second-round picks.
I think I can give an example. You know, the current senior dominant force, Nico Mannion. You guys know who he is, right?
Nico Mannion, like, I see where you're going with this, but he's good, right?
He's
Great.
He's insanely good at the high school level. Final game, dropped 40+ points, got like game winner, won it for his team.
I mean, anyone can be good anyone can drop 44 in a high school game. Like, look at LeAngelo Ball. He dropped, like, what was it, 72 in his going away game? Like,
Okay.
Nico Mannion, don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing him to LeAngelo Ball. I think he's far greater, and I think that he can do stuff and potentially make it to the league, but he's not the Zion Williamson level. We're not talking about just the good high school players. We're talking about the best of the best, the ones who already have what it takes.
Yeah, taking this back to Zion, before the season even started, he was hailed as the possible number 1 pick, right? It didn't matter if he played a game of college or if he came out of high school.
Well, I mean, Zion really, he was always popular because of how dominant he was. But he never was on every single ESPN talk show every day with Stephen A. Smith until his college career started. Because then you saw him being this dominant against the higher people. I don't think
See the
it's-
correlation.
you don't. Alright, well, my process is with Adam Silver. Adam Silver in 2017, he came out and said that he disagreed with David Stern and thought it should be 20 years old. I think that's ridiculous because all you need to prove yourself is 1 year in college, right? 20 is just a little over the top, you know. But he had the same thought process. So I don't think we're ever going to reach a consensus here. And I don't want to turn us all into walking caps lock buttons, yelling at each other.
Stephen A. Smith.
Okay, we're starting out. We don't want to take big shots at anyone yet.
Alright, so now transitioning into the actual league. LeBron coming out of All-Star Weekend, promising to unleash his playoff mode early. Followed that up with a huge win over the Rockets last night. Do you guys buy this, and how far do you guys think the Lakers can make it in the playoffs?
Well, first of all, the fact that LeBron had to establish that he's activating his playoff intensity early is already a warning sign for some of the Laker fans because, like, in the Cavs, I personally think the Cavaliers last year had a much worse roster than the current Los Angeles Lakers. And LeBron still, no one was questioning him. Like, he might have been in a worse conference, but they weren't in this bad of a shape where they were the 10th seed. They did just beat the Rockets. LeBron dropped like 29 points. So he might be activating it early and it might help them. I don't see them going that far in the postseason. Because the max they could get is to an 8th seed. But then again, the people right above them, they have the Sacramento Kings who are hungry, young, and they've been clicking, man. The Kings are having a good season. They're only the 9th seed, but they've had so many less struggles than the Lakers have had. And then that whole trade talk with the Lakers completely ruined team morale.
In all honesty, we're just going purely off of stats right now, and last year the 8th seed had, what was it, like 47 wins, then I think it would be, if you're going off of that, then it would be next to impossible for the Lakers. Sure, they got the win last night. Then you have to go 18-6 with a team that has had locker room issues before because of LeBron, and they've shown even with LeBron sometimes that they're shaky. Like the first 20 or so games of the season, they started off in a very poor manner, and they really couldn't get in a groove. And LeBron just came back, and sure, they won a game, but I don't think that can translate over. But the thing is, they still have a chance to make the playoffs, because you got to realize the Clippers, they were going to be the 8th seed or even higher when they had Tobias Harris and Bogdanovic, right? But now those guys are both gone, so they're definitely going to sink out of playoffs, and that leaves the race against Sacramento and the Lakers. And Sacramento's good enough, and they're not as shaky as the Lakers, but I think it's going to come down to LeBron's greatness versus a good team. Will it be the good team or the good player who overcomes it? Honestly, I'm honestly not sure. I'm pretty sure that I think Sacramento can hold on to it. Right now, they're the 9th seed. I think they can easily get to 8th.
I completely agree that Sacramento poses the biggest threat to Lakers making the playoffs, but I do have to give them a chance because not only was LeBron great last night, But his supporting cast, for example, Brandon Ingram, he rallied up 27 points right behind LeBron. He was getting to the free throw line. He was making his free throws. He was making his shots. I feel like we have to give the Lakers a chance as long as LeBron plays as well as he is, and his supporting cast, all his bench players, are playing to their best.
I think that's true and all, but LeBron, I don't think Brandon Ingram, if anything, Kyle Kuzma's proved that he can consistently score a good amount of numbers. I mean, good amount of points. Last night, I think he had 18, right, which is pretty good. But Brandon Ingram, the guy's just too streaky. One night he can have 27, and the next night he can have 5. And I think LeBron needs more consistent players. And he has Rajon Rondo playing the point guard right now, but the backup point guard position, you have Lance Stevenson. So there's no real leadership on the court until you have Lonzo coming back. And then, of course, we talk about... I completely disagree with that. Lance is a worse leader than Lonzo. Because Lonzo's quiet. I mean, come on. But yeah, Lonzo's quiet, but he knows how to control the flow of the game. And when he's in the court, he has more of an impact than Lance Stevenson. Even his defense is probably better. But, well, probably the same level, actually. But, the thing about Sacramento is, yeah, Lakers, they pulled out a win against Houston, which was great and all, but James Harden did foul out. Not every team's best player is going to foul out with 5 minutes left in the game. And then, again, last night, Sacramento, they showed how good they can really be. After they played 2 that night, and they lost to the Warriors only by 2 points, which was pretty incredible. I mean, honestly, Sacramento, their organization needs more faith in their young players, like Buddy Hield, for an example, in order for them to get further. We saw that against the Lakers late in the game, like 50 seconds left. Buddy Hield pulls up a deep 3, sinks it, but immediately after that, his coach argues with him about that, saying that it was too risky and that it was a bad shot opportunity. And then after that, for the game winner, Buddy Hield first catches the inbound, and he's wide open, but he hesitates. He literally stood there, pump fake, then went around. And you could see the hesitation, like the, I don't know, frightness or something like that in his eyes to take the shot after that. And then that ended up costing them the game since they got an awful shot where they could have hit a 3. So Sacramento needs more faith. Then going back to what you said about LeBron, how he's caused the issues, it's not just that. The Lakers have endured many issues. They have the whole Luke Walton, Magic Johnson not getting along. Then they have the whole Mo Wagner and Lance Stevenson dynamic. They're not really friends. Then also, I mean, we're still giving out on some teams. Like Minnesota, they're 2 games behind. They're clicking right now. They just came off of a 2-game win streak. They could easily catch up to the Lakers too. And LeBron, he's going to need, in order for this to work, Kuzma and Ingram are going to have to take less shots. The ball's going to have to circulate more through 23. And still, they're not going to have that much success. Any team you have to talk about, will they get to the playoffs about, isn't going to win a championship. Probably not going to get to the second round. So I think we're about to move on from NBA to NFL, but I'd like to say one last thing about the Minnesota thing. Minnesota, sure, they have talent, but then again, they're lacking complete leadership from the coaching and the actual team. Okay.
All right, now shifting gears in the NFL. One of the biggest stories to come out of the league this week was the whole Antonio Brown trade controversy. So 2 years ago in 2017, during the offseason, Antonio Brown inked a 4-year extension with the Steelers worth about $68 million. 2 years into his contract, he wants out of Pittsburgh because of a couple feuds with his quarterback and threats from other stars around him leaving the city. So personally, I believe that this is completely unprofessional of him to want out after becoming the highest paid receiver in the league by the organization that drafted him and developed him into the player that he is today. Also, playing with elite quarterbacks such as Ben Roethlisberger, he really does not have a legitimate reason to want out of Pittsburgh. Also, being a 30-year-old wide receiver in a very competitive league with a lot of young cornerbacks that are hungry for interceptions and expose many receivers for not staying up to the competition level required of being an NFL receiver. Antonio Brown is only exiting his prime as of right now, in my opinion. Because though he is still racking up around 1,200 receiving yards per season and catching a record amount of touchdowns, there's only one way to go from here. And if he leaves Ben Roethlisberger in the system he's known ever since he was drafted, I really don't see his odds of keeping the same type of stats being in a favorable direction. Because I really don't see another team in the league that can provide him with the same resources that the Pittsburgh Steelers do.
Yeah, I mean, the player, they should have a choice, but at the end of the day, it's up to the team's discretion, right? It's what they think is best for them. So if this whole Antonio Brown thing, if they don't, nothing happens with him, they keep him, and that harms him, then it's in the best interest of the Pittsburgh just to dump him. But, I mean, Antonio Brown, you're getting paid this much money, man. Just do your job, right?
Yeah.
As you said, I don't see him being that successful with any other team. You were designed to be, like, Pittsburgh has completely morphed around you. And every year he continues, there's going to be a less chance of him getting a ring due to just the lack of explosiveness he'll have.
No, I agree with that. Also, the whole Le'Veon Bell scenario with him threatening to leave the Steelers based on his contract scenario. Also, another big thing is the whole difference between the NFL and the NBA is that the lack of guaranteed money on contracts is a huge issue between players and teams. And Le'Veon Bell and now Antonio Brown are both chasing guaranteed money, which is a huge deal for these players because in football, above all sports, there's a higher chance of you getting injured and you losing your career due to an injury. So I feel like as well as looking out for themselves, they do have to realize that these contracts are legally binding them to play for their team. Even though they do have a choice to suit up for their team and play their hardest, I feel like the whole control factor between teams and players really needs to be addressed. Because the whole issue with Colin Kaepernick was that player expression, basically his own expression of his thoughts and feelings hurt his career in the way his team perceived his actions. And so I feel like that needs to be addressed first before players start demanding trades.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Specifically on Antonio Brown, I believe that he needs to be a little more professional about the whole situation, you know? Like, he's got to look at everything he's gaining and losing if he stays with Pittsburgh, right? Like, think of it. As we've mentioned before, I think it was you who brought it up. He has guaranteed money right now, and he's no longer going to be in the prime of his career. He's entering the post-prime to, like, his declining last couple of really good years,
that's what
right?
I said.
Yeah, I know. That is what you said, but what team is going to want to acquire a receiver that's only going to be good for a couple more years? They'd want to invest in younger guys. And I think Antonio Brown's got to realize that, and that Pittsburgh is usually a playoff team, and he's just got to realize that they'll be back to greatness soon, and that if he sticks with the process and sticks out this little tough part, then he'll have a successful last bit of his career. So yeah. So you mentioned what other teams? I mean, this is a completely theoretical thing, right? But what would you guys think? There's those rumors out there, Russell Wilson to the Giants, right? And there's the rumors for Antonio Brown to the 49ers. But Russell Wilson to the Giants, Pittsburgh trades Odell Beckham Jr. and for Antonio Brown, maybe some other thing, to gain them. Then that's a team, New York Giants, that would want to get Antonio Brown. He would be great with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
He's friends with Russell Wilson.
No, but you'd want to keep Odell then, because his and Antonio's bond is pretty spectacular.
Also, Odell is much younger than Antonio Brown. We have to keep in mind that Antonio Brown is a 30-year-old wide receiver in this league, right?
Antonio Brown, he's older, right? But this whole Giants thing, you wouldn't want to get rid of Odell. He's better than Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Also, I mean, besides the Giants, he's been linked to several other teams, including the Jets, Browns, 49ers, but
Browns
these
might be a good outlook for
thing
him.
is, if I'm Antonio Brown and I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, I'm seeing an aging quarterback named Ben Roethlisberger who is basically post prime at this point, right? Mm-hmm. His stats have only been regressing, and he hasn't been playing up to the level he was his first couple of years in the league, right? So I mean, if I'm Antonio Brown and I'm trying to chase a ring and I'm trying to be successful in this league and leave a legacy for myself as one of the best receivers in the game, I would definitely think it's a possibility to leave the Steelers, even though they are historically one of the most successful and well-run franchises in the NFL. But I do feel like if I'm Antonio Brown, I really want a ring, I wouldn't go after guaranteed money at this point, because the only teams that would actually give him a big contract like that would be a team like the Jets, Steelers, or 49ers, or some team that have a really good young core but still need a lot of preparation and training in order to compete
Right
with
now, at the end of the day, the question to him is, would he rather have the money or the ring?
Yeah.
Right?
But right now he's trying to have both, right?
Yeah, he's trying to have both, but like this isn't a perfect world, right?
Yeah.
The main reason he's wanting to get rid of Pittsburgh is, as you said,
Yeah.
deteriorating quarterback.
Yeah.
First season in a long time, Pittsburgh wasn't in the postseason.
Yeah,
right?
I agree, because right now in Pittsburgh he's getting neither. He's not getting a chance at a ring or guaranteed money. So I mean, if I'm like part of Antonio Brown's management team, I'd be trying to find him one of the two options, while also trying to negotiate with the Steelers, because obviously the Steelers aren't going to give him up for nothing, right? You're asking for at least maybe a second-round pick for this 30-year-old wide receiver, right? I know you might be thinking Cowboys gave a first-rounder for Antonio Brown, what's his name? Amari Cooper, right? But the thing is, they're two different receivers. Amari Cooper is a 24-year-old receiver, still on his rookie contract, that has a lot of potential versus, as a 30-year-old wide receiver that is entering his post-prime. Also, Amari Cooper has been regarded as a really good teammate, whereas Antonio Brown's been super expressive on and off the field, which have, benefited and hurted.
After talking here, with the fellow Water Boys, I think I've really come to the realization that I think the best thing for Pittsburgh would be to get rid of Antonio Brown, and it would be the best thing for Brown, because we've mentioned Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger, they're getting old. Pittsburgh's good days with this roster, it's getting old. They need to start rebooting around the younger guys. I mean, this is just like the Toronto Raptors and how they had to get rid of DeMar DeRozan, right? Like, they want to keep their stars, right? When you think about Pittsburgh, you automatically go to Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. But they've just didn't make it to the postseason, and their whole organization's beginning to deteriorate. Best thing for them to do is jump it quick and rebuild, not rebuild, but
I feel like the biggest reason that the Steelers did not make the playoffs this year is because the locker room tension. Le'Veon Bell, who's arguably their third or fourth best player on the team, sat out the whole season based on a contract dispute, based on him not wanting to play on the franchise tag, right? Yeah. I feel like if you have that type of tension in the locker room, you can't win football games, because when you play football, everyone needs to be 100% committed to the game, right? Mm-hmm. Mentally and physically, you need to put your all into a game to win in the NFL, especially at the competition level has how it's been these last couple of years. I really feel like Antonio Brown, looking into the Steelers organization, seeing an aging quarterback, players not showing up to the team meetings like Le'Veon Bell, and I'm just seeing a young defense that has a lot of potential but needs time to develop. I'd want out if I was Antonio Brown, because with his personality, he wants to win, right?
Like, all these guys, I understand Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, why they would be frustrated. But at the same time, you're getting paid this much money. You're in such high regard by all your fans. You love football. You're there because you have a passion for the game, and you followed that and worked hard. Yeah. Just play the game and get paid. You're getting paid. It's not like any other person can walk into their accounting job, get maybe even make 6 figures a year, but go oh, my boss yelled at me today. I don't want to do the spreadsheets anymore. I mean, I want all my money, but I don't want to do the spreadsheets. And you know what? I'm going to switch banks, and now I'm going to go to TD Bank. Thank you for tuning in to the first ever Not Just the Water Boys podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned next week, where we delve into our playoff predictions for basketball, and we talk more current events and off-season for the NFL. Have a good night.